So obviously, I want to talk about your life and work is the main thing I want to talk about, if that's not too dangerously reflective for you.
No, I mean, I'm 51 now, so it's quite a funny age. Um, I, it's quite a quiet time in my career, I guess. I keep being told by like younger artists, "Oh, like it's to be expected when you're 50," and I'm like, "Oh God, is it? Like for how long? Do you know what I mean? Like until I'm old or something, and then
What is to be expected? The quietness.
like you feel like." There was a time in my 30s and 40s where I seemed to be like, I don't mean it financially quiet or busy now. I just mean like involved with things, like, and I don't mean either like one of those little Welsh characters that's involved in fucking everything. I just mean like involved in the odd thing, like getting a train to somewhere and then staying the night and there's an opening or that you do a performance or that you show work at that opening. Like, I quite miss that. And I think now that my kids are getting older, I feel like I'm at a kind of grumpy loose end a lot of the time. So I guess that's how I started doing drawings on Instagram. But then people think that's negative as well. So you can't win, can you? Do you know what I mean? Like you try to like engage with the world and maybe I should just shut the fuck up and get
Well,
get one of those like
don't
fast
shut up yet.
acting, one of those like fast acting cancers or something to finish me off. Do you know what I mean?
Do you feel? I mean, you've been doing the very popular, let's be honest, Instagram drawings or putting them on Instagram for quite a few years now. Do you feel, as I know a number of people do with when it comes to social media, do you feel like you sort of tied yourself to something that is more commitment than you ever wanted to? Do you feel, there are days when you feel, oh, I just wish I wasn't still doing this, but and yet you still have things to say, you still have characters to create,
Yeah.
or is it just as simple and does it flow from you like it did in the beginning?
No, I still enjoy it. I started a little Patreon offshoot where you could, because what happened with Instagram is that the algorithm or whatever you call it changed. So it meant that you couldn't publish things sequentially or that you couldn't guarantee that they'd be sequential. So people say, oh yeah, I like the stories, but sometimes I get them in the wrong order. And so a few weeks ago, I thought, I'll just make it, you know, on, I wanted to do Substack because that seems like cool and that's big in America, but to do it with them was even the cheapest the cheapest kind of option that I could offer my followers was still expensive. So I went to down the Patreon route, and it's just like £1, I think, a month, which I think is reason. Like people, people buy, a vinyl. I'm looking at the records behind you. A vinyl of something they've already got on CD, don't they? That's more than
Yeah.
following me for a year on Patreon. So I think infinitely better value. No?
Well, the most common pattern is people buying a record, replacing the CD that replaced the record in the first place.
Yeah. But
So,
what happened? Oh,
yeah.
I mean, I don't. I've got some vinyl. I like music a lot, but I don't have. I'm sorry, I'd be your worst customer. I don't feel like I need to buy the records at all. I don't have that attachment. And also, I'm too jumpy with a stylus. Like I would just scratch them. And I like, understand why musicians like the thingness of a record, but I've got enough on my plate. Do you know what I mean? With
without becoming addicted to a
well,
record
like
collection.
track of my cutlery and the plates that get chipped in my kitchen without records, like the most finicky thing that I could have in my house. So I just stream. I mean, to be honest, I don't know if I even listen to music anymore. Like something about my grumpy 50s is that, you know, I am a nostalgic person and I like listening to the music of my youth. But there's something about watching these musicians that are like 10 years older than me. So they would have been the people entertaining me as a teenager. Just seeing them get old and then seeing them at events and stuff. And it's just, I don't, that's not what I want for my 50s, is to be caught in some kind of treacle of, fading musicians, um, later lifestyle. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I want, but I don't want that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's in my
Do you
social
think
media everywhere, like.
do you think that, I suppose I tend to think really that it's not so much the making of music. Everybody's, allowed to be creative in whatever ways they want, but there's something about rock music, there's something about rock and roll that you should leave to the young, and you should move, like, I don't know, like Elvis Costello doing a easy listening swing album, and McCartney doing a oratorio, moving on to something that's maybe a bit more dignified. Is that
No, I
is
don't
that,
think it's
or
that.
do you just want to see them all die in a blaze
No,
of
no,
glory?
it's not that. I think, like, I don't have any beef with them, the performing of it, and like people going to see. It's like, so these are all people that were famous before social media, right? It's like in the 90s, we'd get by like NME or like those thick magazines I never got, like, that are meant to elevate it to like an extra thing. So that's what
Like
I remember.
Mojo and Cut and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
those sorts of
those
things.
thick ones, like you're meant to keep them or
Yeah.
something. And then, so watching those people that were in those things using social media is funny. Like, I, it's not a thing. I like going to see bands and stuff. I'm not funny about it like that. It's just something about them, their kids getting married, their kids being in band. Like, I don't want any of that. Do you know what I mean? Like, in the 90s, you'd read some tittle tattle about these people and that would be it, but now it's like a kind of, everything about, you know, I don't want, I, I would welcome a return to that, a little bit of mystery of celebrity, a little bit, or like, I'd like to know
I mean,
less about them, not more.
it's interesting from your point of view, because you sort of used social media as a tool in your creative, not as, I mean, I suppose you must be able to one must be able to differentiate between the two, but it's not, you haven't used social media in order to, as an extension of your brand as an artist, but it is just a place where you have created a specific strand of your expressive art, and that fits that platform. The platform. I mean, I know that a lot of those illustrations have appeared in other ways, but they were created in order to communicate through Instagram in the
Yeah.
first instance, right?
Yeah. Cause I guess it wasn't conceived of as a platform for people to share drawings, but you can put pictures on it and you can put text on it and now you can add music. So it's like and also people are kind of addicted to it as well, which is good because, people are not addicted to reading groups in galleries on a Sunday afternoon or, a talk on a Wednesday night in an art center. Like, people are not addicted to that. And I quite like that. I mean, I pretty much lost all of my serious art following. Like, I think I probably lost artist friends, but they just haven't told me yet. And curators, they're not the people that follow my thing anymore. I've got this kind of this new audience that they're vaguely art people, but they read a bit and they like films. It's not like they're super clever people or anything like that. I think they're just like kind of my age and maybe also a bit, I mean, also people that like being teased as well, don't they? And they see themselves, you know.
What do you? I mean, that makes me think of a couple of questions. But do you think? I mean, you were talking before about you being your career being sort of quiet at the moment in terms of you're not being asked to be involved in quite as many things. Do you think there's something to do with that? You have a perception that artists and curators are not quite plugged into what you're doing at the moment.
Oh no,
Do
it's
they
not.
think that it's not? There's no connection there. It's not that
No,
sort of
no. I
thing.
mean, now, like, your younger listeners will think he's a miserable shit, isn't he? He wants everything. He wants attention in his 50s. It's not that. I'm just saying that I miss that. Do you know what I mean? Like, so now when I see artists that I used to see regularly 10 years ago, we all look old. Do you know what I mean? And like, and I just miss that. It's not camaraderie because artists are kind of jealous and, they backbite and stuff. But I do miss just seeing them. Do you know what I mean? Like, even the ones I don't like. Do you know what I mean? I just miss that. Um,
Well, they're your people, aren't they? I mean,
yeah, like
fellow
they're
artists.
people that have the same problems as you. You probably feel the same with
Yeah.
writers, don't you? Like, and
Yeah, I do. I even miss seeing the ones that I don't get on with. It's
yeah,
true.
yeah, yeah, because it's like, but it's not necessarily like to do with money or opportunity. That's not, exactly what I mean. It's more like, um, everyone likes to feel like they're part or involved with something. Do you know what I mean? Like, I always think of like, like when you're young and you go to see gigs and stuff all the time. And then there's somebody in your village or your town that loves music and they carry on going when everyone else is having kids. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like, I don't want to be that person, but I'd like to be him like once a month or something. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think though that I mean, you've been successful as an artist for decades now. Do you think that that Wales? I mean, there's a sort of there have been artists connected to political ideas and political movement. I mean, independence or nationalism being an obvious one, but has there been any significant like artistic movements that around artistic expression or ideologies or philosophies around creative practice in Wales? And if so, have you sort of ever been in those circles? I wonder. I mean, for all of the great artists that have emerged from Wales in the last 100 years, n- few of them seem sort of stylistically connected. I suppose there's a lot of similarities in representations of landscape and stuff in development
Yeah.
of those techniques over the years, but no real movements or schools of art.
No, it's not a great place. I mean, it is a great place, Wales, but it's not a great place to be a visual artist on the whole. Do you know what I mean? Like, well, I mean, it's like
Why is
when I
that though?
say,
Why do you think
I
that is?
just think it's not, I don't think it's properly appreciated, like it's, for example, you know, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm very excited to see the Gwen John exhibition. And, just watching that it was opening, seeing people saying, can't wait to see this and stuff. And I think like that's great, but those people should go and see young visual artists that are in Wales. Do you know what I mean? Uh, just because something has like international acclaim and it's great because it's a Welsh artist, but like all of a sudden, you know, people from that are not interested in visual art are all of a sudden interested. Do you know what I mean? And I kind of think like also getting musicians to talk about visual art as well, I think is a funny one. Like no other country does that. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
like nobody asks visual artists to talk about poetry or about music. But for some reason, it's almost like visual art has to be pat tested in Wales. And that sticker is usually put on it by somebody to do with music or to do with poetry or something. You know, like in the Eisteddfod, they get the poets to go round and write a little englyn or whatever about the works. And I can't stand that. I think that's ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? Like it's so I think visual art doesn't, I think there's great visual artists in Wales. There have been, there are. It seems to be a lot of like really switched on young artists in Wales that are deciding to move back here. And that's exciting, you know, like clever ones, you know, like not like me, like ones that like read loads about art and stuff as well. And I think that's good, but they're having to like they're having to lay the road ahead of them as they go. Do you know what I mean? Like um there's not so much foundation for them to work on, I don't think.
Do you think
But it's good.
something
That's
like
really heartening, I think, and I'm really pleased.
do you
with them.
think something like the Gwen John exhibition? I mean, it's the major Welsh art exhibition, not just of this year, but of as long as I can remember. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
absolutely, yeah.
something quite, you know, and to have those international collaborations with New York and Paris and um, I mean. It's a wonderful thing, entirely a wonderful thing. 99%, I feel absolutely great about it. But I do also feel a little bit like, should we be giving like the the institutional, the executive like seal of approval to artists like Gwen John? It takes away some of her edge, perhaps, to have, you know, all of the suits and all of the MPs and all, you know, all coming together. She sort of becomes an emblem for Team Wales rather than an individual artist who should be appraised. I mean, I suppose every country does it with their great artists, don't they? But I wonder if there's a way of
Yeah.
doing it without that.
Oh, you've always got crap people at opening, you know, like people that don't even remember the name of the artist. But I think like, how amazing is it for like young artists, you know, maybe still at school going to see that Gwen John exhibition? Do you know what I mean? Like it's, you know, probably remember that for the rest of their lives or something. And it might, you know, I think it's all good. And I think that's what like National Museum is for showing work like that, you know.
What were you like as a kid? What turned you on as a kid when it came to art? What was your introduction to it?
There's no museums really in North Wales. I mean, there's small ones, but there's not like there isn't the equivalent to the National Museum. There wasn't anything like you had Oriel Mostyn, but I don't think that was actually a place when I was a kid. So the only experience I had of 2D art on a wall was entering the Eisteddfod doing drawings and the teachers like losing their shit with me for going over the lines with my paint. And I never really had much success with that. I remember like there was this guy that was like a local artist called, was it Dennis Roberts? And he used to make these kind of maps of North Wales with like eminent people like dotted around. I think I have after my parents died, I took two of those from the house and put them on the wall. Something about those, I guess they would have been the first things that I saw that were art of some sort. But like, I didn't see, you know, like when you go to London, and there's like a school group sitting on the floor, like sketching or something. I didn't ever have an experience like that until probably I was 18 or something, you know. I remember like when I spent some time in New Zealand, like some artist there said that everything that you experienced as an artist was in a book, you know, like never in the flesh. Like it was always reproductions. And I think, you know, also my parents were not arty. Do you know what I mean? Like in that,
So what?
my,
So what was it that drove you in that direction to go to art college and to what was the obviously you were already creating and creating at a standard good enough for you to take it that seriously.
so I wanted to be an architect, and I at that time there was lots of documentaries on. Do you remember when BBC Two was good in the 90s? That you had like, you know, you had like all sorts of great things from BBC Two, and there'd quite often be like, you know, somebody like Muriel Gray showing the short list of like an architecture competition. There'd be like a funny shaped fire station or some kind of weird balcony or something. I thought, God, that looks so great. Like I'd love to be part of that world somehow. And
So it was architecture that got you to those
well, I mean,
first
that was
steps of
me
where you
trying
are now.
to think because my parents were not bohemian in any way. My You have to think of something vocational, right? Like I'm from like a second generation farming family. If I said I want to be an artist, it's like saying you want to be a very niche kind of clown or something. Do you know what I mean? So, um, so I thought architecture. Oh yeah, that's drawing, and I'm interested in like engineering a little bit and mechanics. And I did work experience in with a practice in North Wales. I won't name it. Um, but it was like 5 days of the most, you know, like eye opener after eye opener, and like shit eye openers. Do you know what I mean? Like just what being a provincial architect means. You know, like so I walked in and there's like big drawing boards and like it smells weird, like some kind of the repro machines smell weird and like this whispering, just brilliant. And then I just realized what the reality of being an architect probably would be for me in North Wales, that it would be extensions and lean-tos or something. You know, like it didn't look interesting. Um, or like a new retail park, maybe, or something like that. And then I think I started drinking and taking a little bit of drugs around that time. And um, maybe paying more attention to like, yeah, like I said, when BBC Two was good, like you would see stuff
Mm.
on BBC Two that you thought was like documentaries about the 60s and the 70s artists. I remember seeing like uh there's a documentary called Pop Goes the Easel about like RCA students or um like David Hockney's dancing with Bridget Riley. I don't know, maybe I made that up. That's in my head, that's what it is. And then they're
I hope
dancing
that's
like
true.
how Batman used to dance, you know, like that kind of before people became cool with their dancing. But it looked so, you know, they're smoking, they've got nice haircuts and stuff. And that things like that, and like there would be books in the school library to do with like these small Thames and Hudson books, pictures of like um performances or like pop art, synth pop, all that stuff was like nobody had ever mentioned that stuff to me. You know, that's one thing. Like, there's a lot of talk about uh, in the art world about privilege and stuff, like money, and you know, some have it and some don't. But I'd say real privilege in the art world is having like a kind of eccentric mum or dad, or like an arty dad, or like an artist dad, or a nude model auntie, or whatever. You know, like those people are like, they're worth about 200 grand to you or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Because they take you to all sorts of weird stuff as a kid. Do you know what I mean? And then, so when those kids come of age, they're not wearing socks already. They're like wearing weird clothes. They think they're already an artist, you know, but like, I feel like I've had to do like a Shawshank agricultural escape to become an artist. Do you know what I mean? I don't mean financially. I just mean like there was no template to look at. And I'll be honest, that those are I'm never interested in the kids of artists or the kids of somebody who was like a poet. I always like the people that like came from like and I'm not saying I'm from a particularly unlikely background or anything like that, but I'm way more interested in those people that weren't properly indulged to be creative as kids. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
because
well,
then it's like it's come out of the air, hasn't it? Like it's like
yeah.
sparks or something. It's not, you know. I mean, thankfully, I've let my kids get on with what they want. I didn't drag them to like rubbish things on Sunday afternoons and made them use charcoal when they wanted to use felt pens or anything. But I, yeah, I'm not. I'm glad not to be part of that, of a lineage like that. You know, like I'm not.
But I'm really interested in your journey for those reasons. You know, that early development of yours. But I'm also very aware that it's almost impossible to look back, and if there are no like really big defining moments, like, oh, I knew I wanted to be an artist when I saw the Picasso, you know, or if there's none of those really big defining, how difficult it is to chart, or, you know, if there isn't that eccentric aunt or bohemian parents, or that it is
Well, I
difficult,
think this
like you
like
say,
this.
it's like it just comes out of the air.
Yeah, but what I mean is like it's probably lots of small things, isn't it? Like I, my dad, um, used to be a member of this thing called Club Erefil, which is like the Smithy Club, which sounds awful in English, but it's like a club where usually older guys would meet up and somebody would give a paper, you know, about like the designs of agricultural gates over the last 100 years. But then you had like, you know, poets and clever people, you know, it ran the whole gamut, you know, and they had like an anvil that they would strike at the beginning. It wasn't like Masonic or anything like that. It was just like, you know, Welsh language and cultural stuff. And then they'd have like an Eisteddfod or something once a year where people would enter like funny limericks or um, serious bits of poetry. But there was like a cartoon competition. And my my dad used to enter that because he was quite good at drawing. And this guy, Dennis, I think his name was, he was the judge. And I remember once, like, my dad did a cartoon of the gold for Diana's wedding being driven out of Wales with some toxic stuff being driven back to the same place. And I think he won or he came second or something. And then he he didn't always win, but I remember being like quite excited by that idea that you could communicate something with, you know, because my dad was a quiet guy. Like he wasn't a person who could write a piece of poetry or something like that, but he was quite good at drawing. And so he would enter that competition and he'd be quite good at it. And I liked that, you know, that was like uh, a conduit for somebody like him. Um, and like, I mean, this is ridiculous. You're going to think I'm a moron for saying this, but even things like in high school, there was somebody that would draw penises in some of the textbooks, but what they would do is make them go after page after page after page. So there'd just be two parallel lines going like that, right until the index at the back, and then there'd be a bell end at the end of the
The
book.
natural conclusion.
Yes, and like just things like that. And also, there was a guy that used to do. He would copy like heavy metal album covers in pencil onto the desk, like just draw them directly on the desk, and then he'd put sellotape over them to stop them being rubbed out. And yeah, I mean, now
Well,
I would. Sorry.
things like that do begin. Things like that, those little patchwork memories you have, they do begin to form some kind of artistic underlay for who you became. I think. I mean, that sort of playfulness, that sort of irreverence, sense of humor. That's all in your work.
Yeah, I like things. I remember like being a bit older and somebody telling me about Joe Alton and Kenneth Halliwell defacing the library books, and I just love stuff like that. Like, also like that it happened that, the people that saw it were like librarians and stuff like that. Like it wasn't, and I guess that's um kind of why I like living provincially a little. I like, there's something about the embarrassment of being a contemporary artist in a place where nobody is interested. You know, like I can't think anything anything worse than like having my life, but in Margate or somewhere like that, where everyone's like an art. That is my idea of hell. But like, I've got a neighbor who makes walking sticks, and he's got a vague idea of what I do, and I know what he does, that he makes walking sticks. But then
But
he
that's
told me
about it.
once, yeah, but then he told me once that he said, "Oh, my son used to in front of the TV, he would like kind of chisel out shapes out of pieces of cheese while he was eating them, like he'd make little animals, like." And I just like, that's more interesting than anything I could talk about in a cafe in East London or Margate or something. I mean, like,
Yeah.
because also I'm from up here, and uh, it's right for me to be misunderstood here as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's okay.
Are you a little bit? Are you the eccentric at the end of the lane? Is that how the rest of
No, I mean, I don't
your
let. I
community
mean,
views you?
people don't really know I'm here, but somebody put their rubbish in my bin today, so they know about me now. Those people, but I no, I'm quite quiet in the village, and yeah, I don't. I would never, I don't get involved with. I mean, I complain about dog dirt on the Facebook group every now and then, but that's about it.
How important was art school for you, and what sort of stock do you put in formal training? I was thinking about this because I read Anthony Hopkins' new autobiography recently, and I didn't realize he tells the story of he sort of, like a lot of shy, awkward people, fell into a theatre and found his community when he was a teenager, and he went on a, when such things used to exist, he went on a touring production with the Arts Council of Wales, or the Welsh Arts Council, I think, as it was then, with their touring company, and went all around England and Wales and Scotland. And after it finished, the director, excuse me, the director said, "Look, you're really great. You've got a lot of potential, but you need to go to drama school. You need to formally learn the techniques, and you'll be great." So he went off for 3 years to drama school and came back and joined the National. And I just, how important formal training can be. Talking about Gwen John, the time she spent at the Slade and then going to Paris and, learning under Rodin and things like that. That sort of formal training, was that important for you in that way?
So I did in the old days, because I teach now in Liverpool, and we interview students, and students now don't have to do a foundation course. The foundation course was like a must-do thing at the time. Like, you had to do it to do a degree, and also art schools were not part of the UCAS system then. So like art schools were closer, I guess, to like technical colleges and stuff like that. So they didn't have a modular kind of degree structure. So it was a year with this amazing group of tutors like Peter Prendergast, Ed Davis, and Paul Davis, the artist. And like art is treated as lower than PE in terms of importance at school. And then for a year, you go to this place, and it was the building where the Beatles met the Maharishi in Bangor at the time. They're not there. The course moved a few months later, but that was where I had my first, experience of being on an art course, was in that building. And it's just, that was so exciting, and Peter Prendergast would make you draw until you'd made a hole in the paper, and then you'd put a piece of paper over it, and then you'd make another hole in that. And so you'd be taught to draw and like how to look at things properly and understand form and weight of line. And, in the old days, you probably would have gone on to a degree course where you would have had another 3 years of just perfecting that stuff. But, in the 90s, it was, I went on a painting course, but nobody taught me how to mix paint or anything like that. So I quickly lost interest in painting and started doing weird videos and goofing around. I did spend like 3 months in the academy in Vienna where Hitler tried to get in. And I learned a bit there because that was quite trad, and I was sharing a studio with this woman, and she showed me a few tricks with paint. And sorry, I just realized that sounded ridiculous.
I wasn't going to say, I was going to let it go.
But... Yeah. She showed me like, things to do with paint and stuff like that. And it's, so I think now as a tutor, young people are going back to wanting to learn skills. Do you see what I mean? Like, how do you do that? So that's a bit of a change, really, because like that wasn't apart from that 1 year with Peter Prendergast. After that, I was just swanning around, and like good swanning, but it wasn't like perfecting like this stuff, because I guess it wasn't. I don't know. That I'm more interested in that stuff now, the thing of like the geeky bits of drawing and painting. But I think it's right when you're young just to follow your,
having that space to just, like you said, goof around when you're young and trying to find out what type of artist you want to be is invaluable, though, isn't it? I saw it's been going around recently on social media, the clip with Morrissey a few years ago, and I think he's on the One Show, and being interviewed by Adrian Chiles of all people.
Oh yeah,
and just the tangible disgust going around the studio when Morrissey says, "Hey, I think like signing on is a great thing for artists because I never wanted a job, I never wanted to work. I think working is like is a horrible thing to have to do. So I just signed on and joined a band." And just the idea, you could see it on Adrian Charles's face, the disgust that he had for this idea that you could admit to not wanting to work and in fact just wanting to take time to I mean, I doubt Morrissey was messing around. He was probably just lying around. But but that sort of idea is lost a little bit now, isn't it? With the sort of
Yeah.
art being more and more pushed towards, you know, if you can't make a career out of it, then you should do something else.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he could have also said it in a way that was a bit more easy, more one show friendly. Like he was winding them up as well. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes, of course. He had a bit of a smirk on his face. There's no doubt about that.
yeah, like if you say, well, like being on the dole allows you to like develop ideas and blah 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 without pressure. That is a reasonable thing because it's like, you know, like you wouldn't. But also, they're talking about a time when a lot of people were actually out of work because there wasn't work as well, right? Like it's not.
Yeah, yeah,
I think like it's funny, isn't it? It's great to talk about successful people being on the dole. Nobody wants to talk about the people that weren't successful on the dole. And I I don't know. Like you wouldn't you wouldn't. So I don't. Somebody said that a few years ago, like while Britain has a Winter Olympics team, we shouldn't be moaning about supporting artists. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's right. Like while we have money for stuff like that,
yeah.
I can't remember who said it, but it's like we don't even have enough snow for most of those events, And
But but the argument. I mean, the argument there. I mean, sport is everything now, isn't it? In this country, like there is work and there is sport and there is everything else is fringe.
yeah.
Anything to do with art and creativity is fringe. Sport is everything because um, the successive governments over 50, 60 years have allowed food companies to pump us full of sugar and salt. As long as the government puts taxpayer money then into making sure kids get out onto a football pitch, then everything's sort of all right. It's just a glorious cycle, really. Whereas the very idea of allowing kids to be, I mean, I don't think that's necessarily a new thing. The idea of allowing kids to be creative is frowned upon. I think there's always been a mainstream in society that has thought that way, and often from a very understandable and caring point of view. Like you want your kids to grow up and to not have to worry about money and stability and things like that.
Oh
And
yeah.
and going into the creative arts is definitely not securing that for them, really, is it? So
No, I mean it wasn't secure like 30 or 40 years ago anyway, but like 30, 40 years ago, you didn't have like landlords owning huge chunks of property and making the rent so expensive that you could, like people were able to like, the people were skint in the 80s and stuff, but there's like a kind of skint now where you actually fall through a trap door and don't come back up. Do you know what I mean? And I think, Thatcherism and like pulling society apart. Yeah, because kind of uh those like anti creativity people say, oh, young people have got phones now and they drink coffees and stuff like that. But like that's all they can do, no? Like you can't like it's very hard for you to find security now as a young person, like you can't buy a house and stuff like that. And
well, it's hard for you to find security in any walk of life now. Not so you might as well be an artist.
yeah. Yeah, I guess the other thing as well though with sport is that it's a knockout um vocation, isn't it? Like if you're good, great, everyone loves you. And then if you break your leg and then you don't recover, then you're out and it's sad. Maybe you get to write a book about it eventually. But I think
Well,
the
yeah.
mean bit of people like that. I think what people don't like about uh, creativity often is that it's like it's not it's not all like doesn't have the same narrative and excitement of sport, does it? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't resolve after 90 minutes or whatever. Like it's yeah, I don't know. It's just not
Do you
for
think
everyone, is
also?
it? That's the thing. Like I think
Yeah,
I think it's okay. Like that's one thing I struggle with about like attracting new audiences as an artist. You know, if you think about every weekend, just the cost to the country of blokes coming back from football matches, dominating the trains that they're on, right? Like you have to be quiet and just listen to them talking after and shouting whatever they're doing. And that's fine. You know, I'm a football fan. I'm not weird like that. But that's every weekend during the football season
yeah.
compared to a few people in Bowden clothes outside like an art centre every 6 weeks. You know, like it's not a huge ask, is it? If you think of like the policing costs and like the infrastructure costs of, you know, looking after people that want to go and watch football week in, week out. Like, I think like just investing in people to make interesting things and to be able to go and see and listen and take part in interesting things. I think that's okay. Do you know what I mean? Like,
What do you think? Like, I mean, this is the age old question. What do you think can be done about that attitude in, the hallowed halls of wherever? I mean, I think I don't think I'm saying anything controversial in that we live in a country in Wales and we belong to a country in Wales that historically, in terms of devolved government at least, has shown like very little interest in art and culture in comparison to anything else you want to compare it to. I mean, you can talk brass tacks about the amount of investment, the amount of cash investment into things that you can pull up many examples of really good things that have been done and passionate things. But in general, it always kind of feels as an artist or writer or actor or whatever in Wales that you're always in a fringe working in a fringe capacity and you're always struggling. You're always being asked to do much more than what's on offer. You're always
yeah, yeah.
pushing a boulder up a hill.
I mean, yeah, I
You
remember
know what?
like you always used to get asked, they would say uh, quite often on like news things online, they would say, they'd report about a new art thing, like a commission or something, and then they'd say the project, which cost £25,000 or something like that. And
Yeah.
like,
Well, I always used to
I would think
complain
like
that like if
going back to the football trains and stuff, you could say, you know, train journey that had to be abandoned because of fans smashing windows between blah, 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 which cost, like they would never tell you then how much that cost or something. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a bit of a, there in this country at least, there's that tabloids making fun of the arts, isn't there? In a way that I don't think they have that in Germany and places like that. You know?
well, I think as well, you end up going. I mean, you see this more and more, or you hear about it more and more, but you end up going up the tree in newsrooms, and you find out that, well, there's an editor there is inclined to be commissioning things that they're interested in. So if they're not
Yeah,
interested in art and culture, I know that I know that that it used to be the case that you could get arts stories the on the 6 o'clock. I'm not saying which channel or anything, but on the 6 o'clock news, you could get it on drive time. You could get it on radio, but you had to dress it up as an economic story. It had to be,
yeah, yeah,
it had to be about the budget. It had to be about the money.
yeah. But that's another thing, isn't it? With like you hear like footballers and sports people talk at the end of the news, like they get quite a big chunk of airtime to say, obviously very disappointed with how things turned out in the second half, but yeah, we go again, or one of those awful things they say. Um, like that, that could be like a very funny poet, couldn't it? Just rounding up the day, or like somebody who does
It's yeah,
impressions or something.
it's a lack of it's a lack of creativity into. I mean,
But
television is
there's
losing
never
its.
any insight, is there? Like, you know,
No,
you had like amazing people that worked in sports broadcasting and that would write about boxing and then about football games
yeah,
really well. But like those young lads are like coached to say non-committal stuff. Like it's not like Roy Keane's days,
yeah.
is it? When he was young, like that's gone. Like so, they don't say anything that's. And then you have like the continental managers, like, well, blah blah blah, and then a bit of to and fro at the like that stuff is like it's
Well, I
tedious,
think
isn't
that's
it?
why that's why something like the overlap has been such a success, because you get four guys around the table talking about when they were playing and what's happening,
Yeah,
at Liverpool and what's happening at Man United, and they're not using. I mean, they've had media training, but they're not using that. They're talking openly like guys sat around a table in a pub, and that's why it's so hugely successful. And now I just see, I watched it on YouTube for a couple of years, and now you just see it's because of the way that social media is so demanding of certain packages. Now it just seems to be they're all talking about like their top 10 strikers and their top 5 left backs, and it's
yeah,
like, who cares? I don't care what Gary Neville's top 5 left backs are. Like, I'm
yeah,
interested in people, in experts talking openly and interestingly on subjects that I'm interested, like football, for instance. But
yeah,
but I suppose there's something about. I mean, talking about this on a podcast is sort of ironic, I suppose. But there's something about the social media platforms that are always going to push you or push creators in a direction that I don't think is the direction they would have necessarily gone in had
yeah.
they not had those edges being manipulated by the platform, or by the algorithm, or what have you.
Do you know what is weird? I think this quite often. It's like that whenever that moment was when we all pretty much stopped watching terrestrial TV together. Like it's like we're in
Mm.
a lake and we're all now just paddling off, choosing our own bits that we're like into, like a podcast, maybe looking at reels or Netflix or whatever. But that we can't check in with each other anymore, can we? Because we're all plugged in like to these different nodes that we're interested in, and it's foggy out here. Do you know what I mean? Like there's no.
Mm.
It's not like we all agree to watch the 10 o'clock news on a Saturday so that we can see the same. Like I think that's. I mean, in terms of news, we've seen how dangerous that is politically and stuff. Because I think people, you know, go into very, very weird and not healthy, down very weird and not healthy rabbit holes. But I think like culturally, I think it's weird as well. So like what I said about having to see these videos of people that you were fans of when you were young and they're just getting older and that this is what they're doing and they live in this house and they do this and that. Like that stuff would never have made it onto TV, would it? Like internet is like this kind of it's this perfect device for just trivia and like too much information, like I mean, you can imagine like what porn on the internet has done for all these people with very niche kind of peccadillos. Do you know what I mean? Like they've found each other online. And similarly, people that like doing weird things with Lego or people that, it's it's fragmenting, isn't
There
it?
could even be a crossover between those two groups.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know what that'd be. Maybe with Duplo or something. Um, yeah, it's a funny also reality to be an artist in, I guess. Do you know what I mean? Like, or a writer or anything, because you could easily like just make work for, well, not that you make work for them, but you could end up just having an audience of other people that are have similar interest. You know, like there's maybe less opportunity for you to like stumble across stuff that you would never have found otherwise. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what I said about BBC Two being good in the 90s, was like you would see something on the Late Show that you would have no idea about. Or like John Peel and things like that. Things that were just like, oh, that's weird, isn't it? Like,
Well, I mean, that sort of cultural, those riches have sort of gone now, and they've been replaced for most people by this beast known as the algorithm that very few people really understand what it is, yet everybody knows the word. It's something
yeah,
that chooses things for you and puts things in front of you and is, you know, eroding so many of our sensibilities apparently in so many ways. But we used to have people like Alex Cox or Mark Cousins on Channel 4 and BBC Two at midnight saying like, check out this spaghetti western. And now you're only going to find that if you've started already looking at spaghetti westerns on
yeah.
YouTube or whatever.
I mean,
You
I
might
think
get
it
some
was
obscure ones put in front of you.
early social media was good like that before they started like curating what you saw. And there's still some people that cut through. It's just a
Mm.
shame, isn't it? Like I was like not a particularly early adopter of Twitter and things like that, but there was a time when, before that got nasty, when I found it like a totally like nourishing thing in my life. Do you know what I mean? Like I'd come
Mm.
across things that people had written or links to
Yeah,
interesting
me too.
blogs and
Yeah.
stuff, and funny and serious and sad. And yeah, I mean, I'm not saying, you know, everybody says the same thing, don't they? Like what did we do to it? Like why couldn't we just have a nice thing and look after it? The same with Instagram, like that people used to have such like odd content that you could like clue into or tune into, and then you know, and make friends online, like people that from other countries, just by like saying, "Oh, I like this thing that you've made, this little model or this thing," and it's just people with money, isn't it? They wreck everything, like they.
Well, I mean, in those cases, that certainly seems to be the case.
It's like I
And
was
it's
watching
about
a film with my daughter the other day, and on a streaming service, and then we were moaning about adverts coming on, and it's like now you pay for the service, and that comes with adverts. And if you want to get rid of the adverts, you have to pay more.
yeah.
I mean, you could carry on that. You could, you know, you could add another level of adverts then, couldn't you? And say that you have to pay even more again to, you know.
Yeah, there's a sort of idea. I mean, it will just go on and on, but there's a sort of idea. I mean, you look at like the conversations about the model of the BBC and the back-breaking efficiencies the BBC have to exact upon its own departments and staff every year in order, and yet because of the capitalist model, the subscription model, Netflix can just go around and throw hundreds of millions at terrible programs that nobody watches or wants to watch. And yet when those things don't work, they just put in an extra subscription level, or Apple,
Yeah,
or particularly Amazon,
yeah,
you know, Amazon run by the richest man in the universe. And yet all of a sudden I've got to pay an extra couple of quid a month to not see adverts on the thing I'm already paying for. I mean,
yeah,
how much money do these people want? It's not my fault that their Lord of the Rings spin-off was absolute toilet.
yeah,
That's nobody's fault but theirs. So why don't they just get better at making stuff that people want to see? That's what
yeah.
the idea of capitalism is supposed to be, isn't it? It's supposed to be giving people what they want. The
But it's funny,
BBC is
like,
supposed to be doing something else, and yet it seems to be working on under the constraints of capitalist ideas, and yet the capitalist models I don't know.
Yeah.
Perhaps I've got that upside down.
But cinema's a weird thing, isn't it? Like when on a a Sunday night, say, with a bit of a hangover, and you're looking for a film to watch on a streaming service, and you scroll down through them all. And so there's the stuff that you've already seen, which is maybe like a third or something like that, maybe not even that much. But the rest is just not very good, is it? And that stuff has had like so much money spent on it, and it's still trite or cliched or, sodden with bad CGI or whatever, and only has famous people in it. That's the only kind of quality it seems to have. Or like it's a bad copy of something that was successful a few years before. Like it's such a weird, I can't think of another um art form that can trundle along being kind of bad. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think there's there will be something to come out of this? I mean, it feels to me that TV and cinema, TV and film, is getting to. I mean, it's getting almost crippled by the debate around AI before AI has really got a foothold in it as well. Everyone in I feel like in literature, writers and artists in your world are very much more circumspect about what AI is and what it can do, using it as a tool rather than being terrified of it creating work, taking the place of artists. Whereas in film and TV, writers are terrified, actors are terrified. The only people who aren't terrified, I think, is probably Jeff Bezos. But
Well, the thing is, though, like, you know, way before AI came along, there's been like shit series and films. Like, if your films already look like AI before AI, then, that's your lookout, isn't it? Like, it's things like I watched that Frankenstein film. It's what's his name? The Pan's Labyrinth guy
oh,
made
the
it.
Del Toro, yeah.
Yeah, other people have said how kind of that. Do you know what I mean when I say something looks like a Stella Artois advert from 20 years ago, where everything is
Well,
like
yeah,
trite and twee, and
yeah,
or it has like a big steampunk vibe to it as well. And
yeah,
that stuff that I've just described is what most AI kind of looks like. It looks like a steampunk working for the Stella advertising company made it, and if you're making films that look
yeah.
like that, then it's your own lookout. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Well,
you should
I
make
think
things
that's
that
really
don't
interesting.
look like they could be replicated
They
easily,
could
no? Do you
be,
know what I mean?
well, I think that's really interesting because when I saw Frankenstein, something finally broke for me, and it was. I realized there was a niggling little voice that had been in the back of my head for 10 years or more about Guillermo del Toro, that he is like exceptionally overrated. And that even though he's made some really good movies, they were a really long time ago now. Pan's Labyrinth and, what was the Kronos and a couple of others that I really liked from his earlier days. And he hasn't made anything that has lived up to the expectation or the hype in 15 years. I don't know, 20 years. I'd have to look at the dates of the movies and probably be reminded of a really good little
Yeah,
movie he made like a few years ago. But I thought Frankenstein was dull. I thought it was, derivative. I didn't know who it was for. Is
yeah,
this a kid's movie with too much gore? Is it an adult's movie with too much cartoonishness?
yeah.
I couldn't
I
really
mean,
figure it out. And like you say, it looked like a Stella Artois advert. It did.
there's something about that thing of like, so that the sailors on the pack ice, right, when their boat is trapped and they can hear Frankenstein's monster shouting on the frozen tundra, whatever. Um, like just how saturated the blues in their uniforms are, like the the effect or whatever they put on the video to make every wrinkle seem like that, goes through like the history of film. There's not like a precedent for like great films that have that. It's like, it's just like 4K, 8K, HDR. Like it's not visually interesting just to make things sharper and have more colors and more, you know, like I think I mean, that's just one thing that's like, you've listed some other things that's bad about that film, but like, oh my God, it's like a chocolate gatto in a TGI Fridays or something. Like it's sickly and it's too much and you can't finish it.
Oh, you're making me change my mind about it now. It sounds good now you've described it that way. But you're an artist. I mean, you're an artist who could most certainly be described as a satirist. A lot of your work approaches things from a irreverent, satirical point of view, drawing attentions to hypocrisies and darker colors of things, underbellies and things like that. You're to work that way. You're an observer. A lot of your work is created from observations that you have made. How do you decide what the idea is you're going to follow? I mean, talking to you for the last hour, things have come up, sentences that you've said I could see developing into some visual piece of yours. So you must have a mind the way you could quite possibly follow 1,000 things a day and to see where they go.
Yeah, I used, on iPhones, this app Notes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was on my way back from work in Liverpool on Merseyrail, just traveling down the Wirral yesterday, there was a guy like now, if you work for a museum, you have to wear like branded kind of fleeces and stuff like that.
Mm.
Like let's say you're like not
Yeah.
a security, but like maybe you work in a museum and then, it wasn't the National Maritime Museum, but let's say it's something like that. And then you have that written there. So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of, it's unfair, I think, it's okay to make you wear a badge, I think, at work, but to wear a garment that has the thing embroidered, I think is too much. But what was funny was that he had the name of the museum there and on the back. And he was, in my head, like a gamer, like a guy who would work. Not that he'd work, that he would be like that he would have a computer specially for playing video games. And so he had like big over the ear headphones. And that's something I've always found funny, is like that you like music that much that in-ear ones are not enough, but you have to like you need to take a piece of furniture out with you into the street almost on your head. But what was good was that he had, I'm not sure if it was the brand of the headphones or a sticker, but it said something like, oh, I can't remember, like not cyborg or something, but it was like a word like it seemed so ridiculous next to the label of his fleece, and I thought maybe his supervisor would not like him walking into work with that. Like things like that interest me, like the negotiation of running a tight ship with maybe a man who's got like a BO problem and he makes the uniform look bad. Or somebody that
Have
is
you
like has a
watched
loud voice or something, and he like you wish he didn't shout so much when he's talking to the public or things like that.
have you seen the Small Profits on the BBC? The new
No, I haven't. I'm saving that up for a bobbly socks day, to
yeah. Well, one of the many joys of it is Mackenzie Crook, who obviously wrote it, has a small part as the manager of the tool shop. You know, it's like a home base sort of B&Q place where the main characters work. And the joy of his growing exasperation as he loses control of them in the workspace, as the plot unravels, is an absolute. He just gets that sort of character absolutely perfectly.
I think one thing as well, right, is like, and I'm not saying like this is some huge thing, but there's something about being first language Welsh that makes things like shops and institutions where everything is happening in English, you feel like you feel like slightly invisible in the situation, that it's okay, you know, that you're allowed to just go up or something. And I don't think that explains all of it, but I think there's something about that. Um, like sometimes, there was a moment when my kids were like making that transition where they're starting to speak English properly, you know, so they've got stronger accents than me because of where they've grown up. But they would like, so this really tickled me. My daughter heard somebody on the street um, who was taking part in some kind of local fun day or something. And he said on the phone, "I'm trying to get hold of the people that are going to build this pirate ship for me." And so that struck her as being like absurd, you know, like that's what it is. There's like a delight in hearing somebody say something like that in English, or somebody being officious, and you know, that's not to say that an English speaker wouldn't have the same thing, but um, you know, like my dad used to find the name Jeffrey funny and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Like he'd say
But
Jeffrey.
it's something. I mean, it's something. You know, it's interesting. You draw like a sort of cultural thread through that, but it's also something about you. I mean, you are. You know, you're a big guy, right? What are you, like 11 foot tall? You're a very. I've always thought, you know, in the years we've sort of known each other and crossed paths and things at different things, you're the biggest guy I've ever known who can become inconspicuous.
Oh,
Like,
that's
and
good.
I think, but I think that's quite integral to who you are as an artist, like as an observer of curious little things. Like if you were your size and with that really imposing, like the biggest,
Yeah.
a force in any room, you couldn't operate in the way you do in order to observe the way you do.
No. Yeah, if I was like somebody who was on a rugby podcast, like a big, you know, like shit views and a deep voice or something.
Yeah, yeah. You could
I
be.
mean,
I
I
mean, you
would
could get
love
away
to
with that.
be a smaller person. I'd like to be like, I'm trying to think, not as small as Dustin Hoffman, but just like a few inches tall. That would be great
A
for
few
me. And I
inches,
could buy
a
shoes
few
that,
inches taller than Dustin Hoffman.
yeah, and that clothes look good on you, and then you can just buy the shoes that you want and not have to make do, you know?
But do you think there's, you know, like what you were saying about being first language Welsh, giving you that almost sort of a veil in between you and the way the English language world operates, particularly in Wales. But do you think that's the same for everybody, or that's part of the lot of an artist? I always think from a writer's point of view, like whenever I feel like I'm not quite in the mix, or I'm on the outside of things, or I'm not quite connecting, that I have to remind myself that actually that's where I need to be.
Yeah. I think it's to do with shyness, you know, like when I go to Manchester Airport, you've got some very loud people there, um, telling the kids to shut up, you know, like we're boarding in a minute. Like you can spot like a family from rural North Wales. Like they're like mice or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think shyness is. I was like very shy as a kid. My brother was shy, and my dad. I mean, it's silly to say of an adult man being shy, but my dad was quiet. You know, like he was not a. He wasn't a loud person, and my mum as well. I guess quiet. So like I. There was times when I was a teenager, I hated that we were like a kind of that we had a kind of meekness as a family. But now looking back, I'm so glad. Like, you know, my dad was a kind of creative person, but he always, you know, he never did anything with that, even though he, you know, maybe he could have done some other stuff in a different reality or something. But he would notice things as well, you know, like he was like observant. And I think it's to do with being shy, you know, like a little bit. So you can't say anything at the time. So it just soaks in. You're like a sponge or something. If you're not involved,
and
you can
and yet
listen more.
your work isn't shy, is it? Your work is bold. It's very out there. I mean, you're one of those artists who every project you never know what is going to come next to you. Be it, you know, something like the bard on the riverside, or the bee skeps in St. David's, where we first met when you were working on that project. It's, you never know what's going to come next, but you know it's going to be bold, and it's going to have a bold message, even if, you know, there's an ambiguity to it. Or
Yeah,
um
I guess as an artist, I'm not so shy. Like I just figure, I was quiet for most of my childhood. Do you know what I mean? Maybe not at home, but I just figure it's all right for me to be like that. You know, I mean, I'm not. I I just think that's how it comes out. You know, and also, um, I think when I moved back to Wales from London, I did find part of the Welsh art scene to be a little bit timid, and I wanted to react to that a little bit, you know. Like I just thought, like, um why is it not fun to be an artist in Wales? Like, why is it so um why does it have to be so heavy? Like, I don't, you know, all my friends that I've left behind in London are like messing around and like doing weird kind of satirical and daft things. And like now I'm back in Wales and it's become like that. So I definitely reacted against that.
do you think it's, I mean, has it changed? Do you think it's still a little bit timid? It's still,
Maybe not timid, but like
does it come from a lack of self-confidence, that sort of,
well, I
you know,
think there's like a
I mean,
little
it's
bit
a
of that kind of
generalization.
a little bit of that Celtic, like enjoying, like I don't know anything about Welsh language poetry and stuff like that, but when I read people or listen to people like talk about the good shit, you know, like the clever stuff that's been written, they'll say, "Ma' 'na ddeud mawr, there's big, they're saying big things here," or it's so dirdynol. I don't even know what dirdynol is in English. It's like, oh, you know, like, oh God. And I hate
That's a
that.
great
I mean,
translation.
I hate that everything is like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm from Colwyn Bay, you know, so I'm not from like a cave or something like that. I'm from a part of Wales where there was the signifiers weren't obvious to me. I knew that I was a Welsh speaker, but there was no handholds for me there, you know. So I had the weird name. I spoke Welsh, and I didn't properly like click with my English speaking peers that I'd see outside of school. So it's made me like a little grump, you know, who's like disappointed with
grump
everything. Well, yeah,
rather than
big,
what you've grown into.
yeah, but like disappointed with my lack of agency with these people I grew up with, and then latterly not properly. Like I go to the Eisteddfod maybe for a day, and I see these people that stay there for a week in a caravan. Like they just drink and they wear Crocs and stuff. Like they don't want me there for more than a day. Like I don't. I'm not part of that. And so I do feel a bit like, that's part of this thing now of being 50 and less busy. It's like I'm wondering maybe I should just try something totally like different, like I don't know, move away or something like that. I don't know.
You're to come back
Like
round to
open a small
the
gold mine in Australia or something like that.
a record shop in Monmouth, perhaps.
There you go. With a
Next door.
gold mine underneath.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be good. But to come back to the Instagram stuff, it's acerbic. It's very cutting. I know so many people who, it's a really important part of their cultural lives now to see these characters come up, and they're so recognizable. Do you get? I mean, it's the big question, isn't it? Do you get much pushback on it when you're down in Cardiff, which I know you are quite? If you go into chapter where you will see so many of these characters.
No, do you know what's funny?
But do
I
you
don't
get?
I had somebody like spoiler night out one Christmas said something. But on the whole, what I get is men about my age that I think there's something quite appealing about seeing somebody else say it without censoring themselves, right? And I think
Yeah.
some middle-aged men get a weird kind of butthurt feeling about that. Like, I want to do that. I don't like that you're doing that. And like, so I get all these weird
Mm.
direct messages like, oh, have you thought about doing a drawing about grumpy artist with a gap in his teeth in North Wales? So I've had loads of those. What about a set of drawings about, like a 50-something artist from Colwyn Bay that like hates everyone? And
Very smart. Yeah.
yeah, I get loads of that. And it's always, I go on their profiles and it's a kind of guy. Like they do a bit of art or they're like a graphic designer. It's like somebody that you would, like when you're with a gang of friends, there's always like one person that hates you, isn't there? It's them, but from across the country, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just, I remove their comments and stew on it for like an hour and then I forget about it. So
Oh, I mean, I'm sorry I brought that back up.
it's all right. I think like, um, the other thing I figure is like, they're not, it's okay to make fun about our human quality, like a lot of these things that I have made little jokes about, I think are maybe close to the bone because I've experienced it myself, like I
Yeah.
have behaved badly in situations and been a big baby about something or like sulked or, well, like we all do it, don't we?
And I think part of the success of it, part of the interest in your Instagram work is that everybody recognizes in a harmless way a little bit of themselves in many of
Yeah.
those characters, and sees it in a more harmful way in other people. So it's an interesting reflection. I think also one of the great things about it is because it does something that Wales I don't think has ever been very good at, which is laugh at itself.
Yeah.
In any meaningful way. I mean, we're very good at creating sitcoms about poor people, but really laughing at ourselves, middle class people laughing at it. I think Wales takes itself a bit too seriously, which comes from a lack of confidence on the national and on the international stage. There's a lack of confidence. There's a sort of lack of real confidence in our identity as a nation. So I think we're not quite ready to be. I found out quite a few years ago, we're not quite ready as a country to have real cultural criticism going on. Just
Yeah.
like, there's no widespread real, although it's getting better, political criticism and that sort of thing. And I think laughing at ourselves is something that we've never been good at, and that's and also that the middle class cultural artiste community. I hate that everything's a community now, but for
Yeah.
want of a better word, they're not very good at laughing at themselves, or we're not very
No.
good at laughing at ourselves either. So
I guess the other thing is like, you know, so the UK has London, but Wales has like a Cardiff problem, which is similar in a way. Like, I spend a lot of time in Cardiff, and it's like people on the whole down there, like people from Cardiff moan about how long it is to get up here, but it's the same length journey as it is to go down. It's not longer, you know. They're not going against the wind or something to come up here.
they're going uphill. That's why it
Yeah,
takes so long.
but I quite enjoy. I think like I am like casting a light a little bit on some demographics up here that people in South Wales might not totally be aware of. Um, like there's a weird mix of like where I live of climbers, quite old-fashioned Welsh-speaking people, then kind of new age, like magic-y kind of people, um, lads driving around fast in cars, and it's very specific to this area as well. That outdoorsy meets kind of hippie thing. It's like
Mm.
I know you have bits of that in South Wales, of course, but like I like talking about what I see on my doorstep like that, and I'm maybe exaggerating it a little bit. Yeah, I think like the book that I made for the National Trust was definitely when I was writing about the properties in North Wales. I wanted to like illuminate people about certain things about North Wales. Like um, not like I think it's the most interesting place in the world, but there was in one of the chapters I mentioned, the FBI, the CIA caught a guy that was living in the Conway Valley. He was like on the CIA's wanted list for some explosions or something. And he'd been living in this place, I think it was Mainan, for like 3 or 4 years. And that was such a typically North Wales thing to happen, that like
Yeah,
people
yeah.
kind of knew him, but didn't, you know. What's interesting is people think when they're here that they're in the middle of nowhere. That's the funny thing, So like people come out of their people carrier to check into the Airbnb, and they talk as if they're on the moor or something, and that there's no, and I'm changing a bit in my drill, or I'm like hoovering the car. Like they're not in the middle of nowhere. There's like loads of, yeah.
Well, listen, look, we've been talking a long time, and it's been great. I just want to finish by saying, what are you up to at the moment, and what can people expect from you in the near future?
Oh, there's something coming, but I can't tell you what it is because it's like,
You always say that. This is
yeah,
how it always
but
goes.
it's true. I mean, it's true this time.
Everything's so
Um,
top secret that you're working on.
my Patreon, I'd like people to follow that. It's cheap, and I I'm really enjoying doing something that is not part of the Instagram universe. So like you sign up and I make 2 or 3 episodes a week. And it's almost like a little bit return to like the blog early era of the internet where you get a ping in your inbox that there's something for you to read. And so I've been doing it for like a month now. I'm very excited about it. I'm not sorry, that sounds like a prick. I'm very excited about it. I am excited about it. I'm not very excited. I'm enjoying it, and I really value this
You're the
little
right
mini.
amount of excited about it.
Yeah, like the mini audience that I've brought over with me. I'm really enjoying like cooking up little things for them to, knowing that there's somebody waiting to hear what the next installment is nice, isn't it? I think that's a good
Yeah, yeah,
good way to
yeah, very
work.
much so.
I don't think I could
Well,
ever like write something from beginning to end. I like the people suggesting things along the way and stuff.
yeah, 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 very cool. Well, thanks for taking the
Yeah, I
time to
hope that's
talk,
all right,
Bedwyr. It's
Gary.
been really good.
Because
It's
when I
been great.
started talking
It's
about
been great.
football trains and stuff, like
No, it's great.
people don't want to hear about that, do they?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, people
What's
just
he
want to hear
got
good
against
conversations.
football fans?
You are an open mic with an audience of one. You are